best practices are a floor, right? They are mediocre at best. They're not best. They're average. And so are you willing to put in that energy to figure out what's going to work for this group of people in this market, trying to get this accomplished?
The Business Owner's Journey. I'm Nick Berry, and I've got real business owners telling their real stories, sharing their real lessons and strategies so you don't have to figure it all out on your own.
Shireen Hilal is the CEO and the founder of Maior Consulting, where she advises professional service firms on how to grow their business. She's also now a 3-time guest on the Business Owner's Journey podcast. Most firms selling expertise are working harder than they ever have, and they're still losing ground to their competition. Shireen's here to share why that might be the case. You can expect to learn why so few firms ask clients for their real feedback, why there's an advantage right now for boutique and for mid-market service providers, how AI is splitting expertise into commodity or judgment work, Shireen's take on why smart professionals sound robotic and awkward on LinkedIn, what you should look for when you're hiring, and the true advantage of hiring A players, why best practices actually makes you average at best, and why running your own firm is harder than fixing someone else's. Enjoy this episode with Shireen Hilal.
All those things really were issues, and some of them continue to be issues, just in slightly different forms. So the need for efficiency, I think, everyone's feeling that. There's been a lot of push for just increased profitability, doing more with less. And look, I think it's interesting. Like, I serve the professional services market. You also serve a services-based market. And a lot of that feeling trickles down from the corporate market. And so it's when corporate budgets are tight and things like a volatile economy, impending war, things that are going on that are keeping things spicy, that eventually makes its way to, well, what budgets do we have for hiring outside service providers to do these things and come into our business? So that absolutely has had an effect. And I think we're still seeing it. And that kind of brings you back up, I think, to the first item, which is clients are definitely feeling a disconnect. And part of that is just we do so many things virtually. And at the same time, we're all moving so fast that I continually am brought into firms for issues like, why do we have such a big accounts receivable balance? And I thought we're delivering, but our clients aren't paying the bill. All the way to, we're just not as sticky as we thought. We think we're able to cross-sell, but we can't. And so it's just everyone's in these silos and just trying to do what's in front of them. And that sort of brings you to the second point, right? Which is remote work. And so these things I think are very interconnected, if that makes sense. It's sort of, we're all in our own little bubbles, just getting things done. And who's thinking of client and customer experience and what value clients are getting out of the work and how we're framing that value to them. And is that speaking past the cost center to what that corporate, for example, is actually trying to achieve at a higher level?
Yeah,
So I think these are all still relevant. What do you think?
absolutely. Well, I remember when in your first interview, the thread that I connected the 3 things with was you want to be seen and heard by your clients. You need to make sure that you are making your clients feel seen and heard. Like, you have to do more to make a connection with them than just a passing greeting.
Yeah, and it's funny. I am continually surprised at how many firms do not sort of look to their clients when it comes to where should we grow next? I know we've talked about this, or what's our next stage, and maybe we should offer this service, or should we price it like this? Why don't you go ask and get that feedback directly, right? From the market and from your clients. But it's surprising how seldom it happens. To me, the best example I've seen, I write a column for a publication called Today's Managing Partner.
You're a
Um,
great writer, by the way. I know I've told you that
you.
before. Yes, but
Thank
you are.
you. I think it was 10 years as a litigator, I guess, where it was like brief writing and persuasion writing, but I definitely did not start as a strong writer. it was I had to have it, like, beaten into me, I think, but now I actually really like writing, and I find it to be sort of a nice creative outlet. It's also a really nice forcing function. So what I mean by that is, if I think I know about a topic, let's say it's, how do you move away from the billable hour and price differently? I think in a conversation with my clients, I'm just off the cuff talking about it and we're spitballing a new strategy. But when I have to sit down to write an article, I'm like, wait a minute. What are the other ways that I didn't think of? And do I need to do a little research? And is there something else that I haven't been thinking just off the fly, off the top of my head. So I really like the writing. But back to your question. So I write a column for today's managing partner where I interview in house counsel to ask them, what are the things you wish law firms knew, given you hire them? And it's also an opportunity for me to ask my law firm clients, what questions do you have for your market that you don't want to ask directly? And I was speaking with the head of procurement for a Fortune 50 company, and she said, Shireen, I think I've worked with almost every firm in the American Lawyer 100, which is sort of like that ranking system, the top 100 firms. I don't think a single one has ever come back to us and said, was what we gave you useful, and were you able to operationalize it in your business? And I was like, wow, that's very telling.
It is. Yeah. And like, I don't want to look down my nose too much at them because I happens to all of us, right? And I'm wondering
Yes, all of
why,
us.
but why? Like, what's the
Yeah.
obstacle? Is it because they don't think of it? They think that they are too busy, or that they don't want to ask questions, that they don't want to hear the answers, or that they don't want to feel pressured to act on the answers? Like, which of the reasons are we drawing from here? Because they're probably not legitimate reasons to pass up opportunities to hear from your market like that.
It's a good question. I think it's a combination of, we're just all moving fast. So we don't take the time to look back and get that feedback. And to your point, like I could be better at it. We probably all could be better.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think a piece of it too is, it's just, do I want to know the answer? Like, you paid the bill, right?
Yeah, you know how that it can be in coaching too, where it's like you're kind of resisting something because you don't want to hear. You know what they're going to tell you, and you know
Mm,
they're probably right, and you right now you just want what you want and just stay the course, and that's a trap.
yeah,
It's the
it is.
same thing that could happen if you're not, that you don't want to listen to what your clients are telling you. If it's because you don't want to hear the answer, like, that's a problem.
Well, we're all a bit fragile, aren't we?
I guess. I didn't realize it until got this.
But you
I'm
realize, even though it's like you're running a business, or you have a book of business, if you're in a firm or what, it's just, we're all just trying to get through sometimes.
Yeah. So did you have any predictions for 2026?
I did put out trend reports. So I put out one for law firms, one for wealth management. I did one for accounting. And so the themes that came up were, they're not going to be wildly different from 2025. I do think there's some nuance there. It's, what you're seeing a lot of right now is there's still pushback on rates and clients wanting to be sure they're getting value. You've also seen a lot more movement to boutique and mid market. And I think that that's cool. Like, there's a real opportunity, if you're a smaller firm, to have an outsized presence, whether that is taking advantage of, social media and other ways that kind of level the playing field when it comes to having a voice and being out there. And it's also, listen, we're in a time of very high corporate and political mistrust. So being the biggest name in the room is not necessarily the advantage anymore. People want to work with a person they trust, not with a faceless entity that they aren't sure that they trust. So I think that that's been a massive opportunity. I think at the same time, you're seeing a ton of, as we all know, it's AI and technology adoption. And so that's disrupting our workforce, but that's also a huge opportunity. What I'm seeing there is, instead of thinking, AI is going to like take our work, you got to move up here. And so I'll give you another quote. I was speaking with the general counsel of a mid-size software, like B2C company. And he put it to me great. He was talking about buying legal services, and he said, if you're going to staff my matter with a junior associate who's going to do a bunch of research on the state of the law, I've got news for you. I was in big law for 10 years and I have ChatGPT too. And the state of the law is not the state of what's actually happening out there. The law is notoriously behind reality, right? And so what I really need is the one person who is obsessed with my issue and thinks about it all the time and is willing to talk about how to actually move forward in the gray. What I don't need is a state of,
Yeah.
right?
Because
The
it's the
way
state of last week, right? They
correct.
want
And he's
somebody
like,
whose ear is on the ground.
right. And his point was, I would pay $4,000 an hour for that person. And so that I think is the difference is I think you're just seeing it expertise is getting stretched to can I commoditize this and how quick and how fast? Or is this something that really requires judgment, not information? Information's cheap and abundant now. We're in the knowledge and like judgment game.
Yeah, insights. I don't need you to read a report to me or read the data to me. Like I can read, but if you can infer from that what's of value to me and distill it down, that's what I will pay for.
How do we operate our business today and move forward in a fast moving market? That's what they want to know.
That's where we're at. Can you talk a little bit more about the boutique mid-market? Tell me a little bit more about that. What's happening? What's working?
I think what's interesting is it's never been easier to have a platform and have a voice, right? I don't know that we're all always the best at it. I know for me, I personally struggle with social media and having to do the thing, but it's a huge opportunity, right? I don't need to get a slot on CNN. I can put up my own channel. Don't know if anyone's going to watch it, but that's kind of the point, right? Is you have that ability to put things out there, have your own publishing, if you will, and you're not beholden to somebody else deciding whether the content is good enough to either be published written, right? Like I can start a Substack tomorrow. Who's stopping me? So as long as I'm writing what people want to read and they keep reading it, kind of like the market will speak for itself, I guess. And that's where the opportunity is because again, it's corporate versus human. Like Richard Branson has more followers than Virgin. People want to know what he thinks, not what Virgin thinks. And so that's where you can put yourself out there and show people. Don't just tell them what you do and how you do it.
Yeah. And the opportunity is there to do that. And then for someone, if you have a particular skill set, like I mentioned you and your writing, you said doing the thing, getting it going on social is a challenge for you. And I get that. But you have this skill of writing, like getting your message out there, putting it together in a really clear, understandable, meaningful, persuasive way. So to be able to leverage that is important. Now you, like in this world, that can level the playing field like you were talking about.
Yeah. And for me, the real transition was look, I had come from very risk averse, no comment places, right? Law firms and large accounting firms where it's better not to say anything publicly. I'd never done it before. I'd never had to have a social presence. And every piece of writing I had done had been like a business purpose writing. For me, where it got really hard, I still struggle with this and I go back and I rewrite, for example, like a post on LinkedIn before I post, I might rewrite it 3 times. Because I still want to write it from like a as if I'm writing for Law 360 or Today's Managing Partner, which are like the 2 publications I currently have columns with. And it's like, wait a minute, people don't want to be spoken to that way on social media. But if you're not somebody who was on social media and used it frequently, and by the way, like I didn't do it in my business life. I never had a Facebook account.
You're the one.
I'm the one. I've never had Instagram. I've never wanted any of it. And everybody was, oh, Shireen, you got to get on. And then everyone's like, wow, you got to get off. You were already off. But I never, it wasn't my way of communicating with people. So if you don't know what you're doing, and you start kind of putting out this businessy writing on LinkedIn, all of a sudden you're like, why don't I sound human? Like, why, like, why is it so hard to just sound like how, if we're having a conversation, why can't you just write like that?
Yeah. It's like you walked into the wrong room and began your presentation to the wrong audience.
Totally. It's like you get up there and a lot, this is not just me. I mean, I see this with a lot of lawyers. The way the post is written, you're kind of like, "Oh my goodness, like this is like, I don't know, some Benjamin Franklin stuff." It's very, it's a little old-timey and like see attached and, I'm proud to announce and you're like, "Who no one would ever. People don't talk like that."
Yeah. But I mean, I think you will, if you're not careful, the same thing can happen if you decide to like, I'm going to leave my voice behind. I'm going to go there and I'm going to try to like create my voice for that environment. And then you read enough of the whatever we want to call it that's already there. And you can kind of take on this new voice that you've acquired by reading everybody else's, all the other shit that's on there. Like I call it the mode.
It's bad. It's
Or
bad.
it's like when you're interviewing people for podcasts, it doesn't
Yeah.
happen much anymore. I don't know what's different, but it used to be like we could be having the best conversation. And as soon as I hit record, it like everything changed about them.
Really?
Yeah. And I probably did some of it too. But the same thing would happen. Like, I could send you an email message and we can handle whatever. It's clear, simple. Start to write a social media post and it's some different voice with some other plan for how they're going to communicate this message. It's like you get contaminated by that environment.
I like
So
the word contaminated.
yeah, that's what it feels like too. And, when you try to unlearn it, it's like, holy shit, how do I get back to being me? So social media did that to
Right.
me. I'm not sure that it was entirely social media's fault, but that's what brought it to the surface. That's kind of a thing that happens. Social media gets a lot of the blame for it to the digital world. So the way that I've learned to address that is looking at it like groups of stakeholders, right? So I talk
Mm.
to you a certain way and you and I have gotten to be friends and we've had conversations. And so like, I'm just really comfortable talking to you. And I think I would
Same.
probably be this way wherever we run into each other.
Agreed.
If I was talking to my mother, it would be a little bit different, right? Because I have a different
Yes.
relationship with her. And then if I was talking to a lady across the street who I know lives there, but we waved, never had a conversation, we would have
Right.
it would be a different dynamic. So they're all stakeholders. And like you have to have a sense of awareness for who are you speaking to in what context. And that's what will help you bring the appropriate voice to the table. And if you don't, it would be, if I started talking to you like I'd never met you, like I would my mother, it would just be awkward.
Yes.
That's what we're doing on social media.
Yeah.
But
And
I
it's
mean,
awkward.
yeah, it is. And it's not just restricted to individuals, it's audiences. So I use the example of walking into the wrong room, got up on the wrong stage and started doing your presentation in front of an audience who was expecting a different speaker and you were expecting a different audience. Like that is a mismatch. It would be awkward in real life. Well, I mean, that's what we do if we bring our corporate voice into a more social conversation.
Yeah, and it kind of what we were talking about before with it's hard maybe to be vulnerable, like asking your clients for real feedback.
Mm-hmm.
I think similarly, we're kidding ourselves if we don't say we care what people think when we post, right? Of course we do. And of course, it's sort of like, "Ooh, was that a good one? Do I sound a certain way? Do I sound stupid? Do I, whatever? Oh, it didn't get that many likes. Now I feel, I don't know, like, was it a bad
Yeah,
post
does that
or
make it bad? It must be bad. It didn't get as many
where
likes.
yeah, and it's kind of perspective too, right? Because, okay, let's say you're like, "Ooh, like this only got 27 whatevers." Wow, if 27 people were to tell me, Shireen, I love the article you wrote, or I love the jacket you're wearing today. I would be on cloud nine,
Yeah,
right? Like I would be elated. Like, wow, that's a lot. That's a lot of positive energy.
it
But
is.
somehow we get out there and it feels very inadequate,
It does. Yeah. Yeah.
right?
And we draw so many of those conclusions from it
Hmm.
it's just the stuff that goes on up here.
Yeah. Just makes you realize there's all these people just anxiously posting, maybe, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it's being stressed out, and I've been through that. I handle it a lot better now than I used to, but there was a time where I was
You're
just like,
great. You post a lot. You're good.
well, I've kind of learned to take I just can't give, like, I'm going to make the post, and then whatever comes of it, comes of it. Its reception is not really going to define how I feel about what was put together. And that piece is not going to define much more about me. I focus on what I can control.
Definitely.
You said you thought starting Maior would be easy since you do this for other firms. And I'd like to hear what you think about that now.
Yeah. Wow, it's so not. And it is so much easier to tell other people what they're doing wrong in their business, right?
It's the
I mean,
beauty of
come
being a
on.
coach.
Oh, you're telling me. So much easier said than done. I think especially at the smaller stage, I only have three people working for me. So this is not some like big enterprise business by any stretch of the imagination, right? Um Yeah, I think it is a lot harder when it's your business. For me, I think the staffing and hiring in particular has been one of the most difficult. And, you and I know each other and I think have a friendship outside of this. So you know this, but I've just had different fits and starts with hiring people, trying out different skill sets, part-time, full-time, onshore, offshore. And the truth is, I think if you're in a really small business right now, the conclusion I've come to, let's see in 6 months if I change my mind, but you have to be moving really fast and evolving if you're doing this right, because the world around us is moving really fast. And if you're a small business, you're moving fast and you're iterating and growing quickly. And so if you're not recalibrating, how are you going to stay nimble and profitable? And so for me, one of the hardest things has been figuring out, then how do you ever keep like a steady stable of people who are helping me on this business, whether it is full time or part time or on a consulting basis or any combination of those things? How do you keep the right mix? And one of the conclusions that it probably took me way too long to come to is I think at this size, finding people who are a little more of a Swiss Army knife is, I think, really important because I can fill for a need today. And within 2, 3 months, Nick, like my business is changing. The kind of work we're doing for our clients is different. What I need the support on is different because that is how fast it moves when you're in a small business, right? I mean, changing over 3 clients can be the difference of a complete shift in the type of work you're doing and the kind of output you need. So I don't know. I think it's more my outlook going forward is going to be a little more that Swiss Army knife, right? Like who is able to more quickly adapt, a little fearless around trying things, it's more about, I think, like the willingness to learn and dig in.
Yeah.
Because I can teach you the subject matter, right? I can't teach you to have the tenacity to be like, "Oh, well, I'll watch a YouTube video and, like, learn about that."
Yeah. There's something to the willingness to be agile or nimble in people. Like being a Swiss Army knife is a good, like, it can be handy utility wise, but I
Yeah.
think it tends to tell you a little bit about their mentality or their, how willing they are to adapt. And that's super important.
'Cause your
So
skill set is gonna be outdated very quickly if there's changeover in clients, if it's just what's happening in the market, if it's even for me, it's not necessarily I'm grateful that my clients tend to stay with me, but what they need changes, right? I mean, you solve one problem, there's another problem, and it may look completely different, and it's not necessarily the exact same kinds of research that we're doing all the time or the same kind of work product that we're bringing them.
for you, has it been more of a challenge to come to a decision on, like, we need to change or we need to adapt? Or has it been more of a challenge to enact the change?
I guess the former, although I get there. I don't know if anybody ever feels that they get there fast enough, because once you've realized something, you're like, "Oh, how did I not see this? How did I not see this 2 months ago, 3 months ago, 4 months? Like, what's wrong with me?" But it comes to you when it comes to you. The piece I'm very grateful is not my issue, is moving fast. So, I'm lucky. This is both, as I think we all probably feel like our strengths are also our weaknesses in some ways, right? It's what we're good at is also a bit of a can stand in our way sometimes. So I feel very blessed that I am both very creative and curious and highly execution oriented. Where that gets dangerous is I can like spin up on a weekend like 4 new big projects. It's funny. I have one employee who's been with me from the beginning. And I have one that joined probably 3 months ago, and he's awesome. And he asked her that we just had a call today, a catch-up call, me and like employee 1, and she was laughing. She said, he asked, "Is this just a really busy time at the firm? Or is Shireen always like, is this how Shireen is she always on like this?" And she was like, "Yeah." Like she's like, this is what it is. This is not
Yep. This is
like
Wednesday.
yeah, this is buckle in, like yeah, and so it's a good thing. I think where it can be challenging is, do you have the people around you who aren't like, "Oh my gosh, like, what do you mean?" Or one of my favorites, I had somebody who didn't work out liked to say to me, "But I thought we do it this way." And I'd be like, "Yeah, we did until like 2 minutes ago."
Right now until
Like, guess what? We're changing. And look, something I am good at is once I see it, there's nothing standing in our way. And so even if we can't do the whole thing right now, there's got to be something we can do to start. But we're not going to sit here and wait for some grand plan 2 months from now. Like,
Mhm.
nope,
Yeah.
nobody has time for that. Let's get out there and start.
Yeah. So now, like, I can totally see how this all plays out with you and your team, and why you want those people with who are the Swiss Army knives, because once you see it, like, we're going.
We're
And
going.
you don't need to bury a lot of energy into having to drag people.
No.
You need to be able to help them, like, just change their line of sight toward the new goal or whatever the new target is, and on we go. And this is part of it here, right?
Right.
You don't need to have like this big energy pit or burn every time you do have wanted to make a pivot, where it's like, okay, now I've got to like rally the troops, and then I've got to go to the ones who are going to be really hard to get them refocused and pull them up and pat them on the back. And that's just
And I
not the
think it
environment you.
helps. I show them, I'm like, "Wait, I don't know how to do this either." Right? Like, we're all gonna try this and it's new. It came to me, but I wasn't doing it. So,
Mm,
we're all gonna just have to learn this.
mhm.
We're gonna divide and conquer. We're gonna figure out who's gonna do what, and, like, let's do it. And so having that curiosity is a pretty important trait for me. It's also then you can't skimp or cheap out on people if that's the expectation, right? Like I think you have to compensate nicely for that.
Yeah. I mean, you get what you pay for.
That's
With
exactly right.
people as much or more than anything, the whole A player thing, it's true. I mean, there is a
It's
level
100%
that's,
true.
yeah, worth
I
multiples.
Nick, I see it all the time. I have a firm where this is one example, but you see it constantly where it's like, "Well, could you think we can offer like a base salary of this instead of this?" And I'm just like, Yeah." And guess what? Just look outside and ask yourself, have you ever seen a great company, firm, corporate, whatever, that was built by being cheap with good people? I've never seen it. I mean, the qualifier there, and it's an important one, is good people, right? We don't want to overpay people that aren't able to deliver.
And doesn't mean nice people. It doesn't mean friendly people. It doesn't
Correct.
mean people that you like more. It means
Correct.
good based on has to be produced out of this position.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, I think so. You can look at Elon, and I use Elon as an example because I think by now most people have heard about like his style and how he filters to acquire the top level talent. He's only going to do it do something if he's clear on what the problem that they're going to solve is, and he can bring the best talent in the world to work on that. And the results are the result. It speaks for themselves. And you don't have to approach it the way that he approaches it, but it's an easy to see example of the difference in when you are clearly going after the top tier of talent, the A players, versus other companies who are doing really well, but they're not doing what Elon's companies are. And they don't focus on only the top level. They take good and
Right.
better. He takes the best only.
Well, and I think there's a reason, right? Like the amount of innovation happening there, it's on a different level. It's not, there is no run and maintain. I don't get the sense, at least, right? I've never been inside these companies, but inside his companies, but I don't get the sense it's a run and maintain operation. I also get the sense, I mean, he's doing things that have never been done and pushing the innovation boundaries. So who do you think is going to be able to do that for you?
I
And I feel that way about my business, obviously on a much smaller basis. It's nothing like that, right? I'm not putting people in space. I'm not, no way. But
But I think that you are working with professional services who there's a lot of standards, credentials, there's rigor in place. There's a lot of antiquated practices, maybe policies. And I think you being the way that you are and your creativity and is part of what makes it such a good match for you.
yes, and it's knowing best practices are a floor, right? They are mediocre at best. They're not best. They're average. And so are you willing to put in that energy to figure out what's going to work for this group of people in this market, trying to get this accomplished? And so that's a perfect example. The person who didn't work out at my company would like to look at our projects and say, yeah, but what's best practice or what's normal in law firms? And I would say, I don't want you to think about what's normal in law firms because by definition, 90% of law firms are not in the top 10%. So if we want to look at what an average law firm does, that is not what we build at this firm. We will make our clients the top 10%. That's the energy we have. So you have to have that more innovation mindset. Otherwise, sure, I'll just crank out another playbook. But do you want average results? I don't. My clients don't.
And there are places where they probably wouldn't say that, but like their strategy is designed to
Use this
produce that.
framework. And by the way, it's like Weight Watchers, right? It's definitely better than not doing something. And for a lot of people, just having a plan, if you're able to stick to it, is awesome. Is that the same as getting a nutritionist and a fitness guru helping you or a personal trainer? It's not, but it's better than eating a bag of potato chips, I guess.
Before you go, watch my conversation with Dr. Benjamin Hardy next. It's the one that's on your screen right now. We get into why most founders end up being what holds their businesses back and how to set proper goals so you can scale. It's the most watched episode that I've ever done. Go check it out.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found the show valuable, you can say thanks and show your support simply by taking a quick second to like, share, and comment on the show. You can also find more information about each of my guests, all of the resources from the show, and myself at nickberry.info/TBOJ.